And there's a collectivization, if I could say, of criminality. It's not, with all due respect to Tony Blair, he's not the only criminal on the block. All these people are criminals. And it is the criminalization of the state apparatus, of the United Nations, of all the intergovernmental bodies which now have mandates to spearhead peace, but which in fact are involved in acts of war. And that is ultimately our task, is to undermine and disarm this military adventure of the United States and its allies at a time of crisis and economic crisis. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Professor Chossudovsky, we actually have one question that is directed to you from a member of the audience, Maznur. The question is, how strong and effective is the pro-Israeli lobby in Canada?
They're not effective. They are paper tigers. The pro-Israeli lobby attempts to buy people out essentially because they have control over large financial resources. Canadian public opinion is firmly behind the people of Palestine, but we have to, and that's very important, we have to disarm the mainstream media. We have to confront the mainstream media. And essentially, if public opinion is confused as to the nature of this military operation in the Middle East and Central Asia, directed against the people of the Middle East, directed against the people of Palestine, is because the media, which is controlled by the pro-Israeli lobby, not totally, but in part, is conveying lies on the nature of this conflict, and is conveying lies more generally on the crisis which is affecting us, this global economic crisis, and in many regards everything is tied in. The media conglomerates are part of the power configuration. They distort reality and they lie to us, and so the lie becomes, in a sense, something which people accept. And when people accept the lie, I think then we are in a situation where we can't go forward anymore. And undoing the lie and restoring the truth in our understanding of US foreign policy is absolutely essential, as Tun Mahathir has pointed out in his opening address. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Dennis has something to say about that also.
Yeah, I just asked to have the floor to add to what Michel has said, because living in New York as I do, the contrast between Canada and the States is huge in terms of the Israeli Jewish lobby. In the United States, I think the entire military, corporate, media and energy complex is infiltrated by AIPAC and the Jewish lobby. No decision is made in the White House, as Michel also mentioned, Rahm Emanuel and many others who are involved in every aspect of the think tanks, of administration, and in the Congress. You may not think it, but in my view, the United States is perhaps the most corrupt country in the world. Not a congressman makes a decision without being approached by the lobbyists of K Street in Washington. They take money, they use the money, they go into think tanks, they're rewarded right, left, and center. And AIPAC and the Jewish lobby plays this game brilliantly with extremely successful results, as you can see and as you know from the Israeli perspective. I have one question here I see from the floor, connection with Egypt. How do we shame Egypt in stopping its complicity with Israel? Well, this of course has got to be undertaken and accomplished by the people of Egypt. You know, we're not here actually to interrupt in the democracies or governments of other countries. Nevertheless, perhaps we have some influence. And I, as you know, I very much have asked that Turkey and Egypt who are uniquely placed with Israel and with the Americans and others to get involved and to bring about a neighborhood solution. I think we have to say it frankly, that until the Mubarak regime is overthrown or put out of office, we won't see any change, because of course the Americans, as you know, pay him, I think it's $3 billion a year to support American policies. Let's hope that can change. Maybe Mr. El Baradei, who's the former head of the Atomic Energy Agency, will end up in power. That would be very encouraging. But clearly Egypt needs to realign itself with the neighborhood, with the Arab world, with the Use the Arab League, and to convince its friends in Israel that this is not the way to go, that violence does not pay, that maintaining their nuclear weapons is a threat which leads to a very dangerous response. And maybe Iran looks at that military capacity, that nuclear capacity of Israel, and thinks about a deterrent for itself. Not that there's any sign of nuclear weapons in Iran or any intention to produce them, but nevertheless, as we've been acknowledging, the threat of sanctions has begun, and the threat of warfare may well follow. That would be a tragedy. So Egypt is just terribly important. With Iran, with Turkey, I think together they can convince Israel to do business differently and to accept the Palestinians as equals, give them human rights, the right of return, and re-establish their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. We'll be posing some additional questions to you later. May I have Ashraf say a few words? And perhaps you could also touch on, if you have any information at all, Ashraf, about what's the status of the MV Rachel Corrie right now. As we hear, it's still in Ashdod, but perhaps from your network with the media over there, you may have some idea what's happening.
Okay, Dato', right now it's about MV Rachel Corrie and Marmara as well. We don't have any info yet, but later on they said it's going to be sent back to Turkey, inshallah. But what I'm going to say is that we here in Malaysia and other Muslim nations, that we share the same primordial sentiment when it comes to the Palestinian issues. So that this 6 decades conflict between Palestinian and Israel, it shapes the sentiment in the Muslim world. So it's that my part, our part, and our fellow journalists here in Malaysia, what we have to do is that we have to be there, we have to reveal the truth, because our audience been exposed to the same old, distort, one-sided information regarding this Palestinian Israeli conflict. So what we have to understand is that the landscape of the geopolitical, Middle East geopolitical landscape, as well as how the unipolar era nowadays shapes our political landscape here, not just Middle East region, but all around the world. So what we have to do is that it's just that we have to report the unreported. That's all. Thank you very much, Dato'.
Perhaps I can add to that also, Ashwa. There is a suggestion here. Are there any efforts? Well, the question is posed to PGPO, but perhaps yourself being a representative of the media here, any efforts to produce a book that contains the experiences by all those involved on board Rachel Corrie, Marmara, because they say that they will be the first to buy the book and sponsor
I guess
the
it's
book.
not just the books, Dato', is every platform, documentaries, films, forums, whatever it takes, we have to do it by hook or by crook. So that's it.
Thank you very much. I know there was a question posed to Jenny. Would you like to answer that first?
Sure. The question is, as a Malaysian civilian, how can we contribute towards the break the siege in Gaza? There's a huge amount of ways. I know somebody later on this afternoon is speaking about the BDS campaign, which is the Boycott, Divestment and Sanction campaign, which is one of the easiest ways to help out in to break the siege in Gaza. It means buying local as opposed to buying Israeli. It helps your own community as well as not helping them.